Fanny and the moss coat visitor. Fanny was a child of quiet wonders, the kind of girl who could spot a single silver spire thread in a field of green. She lived in a house where the garden ended and the great misty woods began, an edge place where the air always smelled of damp earth and pine sap. One morning, while the fog still clung to the grass like a soft white blanket, Fanny stepped onto her back porch and found a small, huddled shape by the door. It was a tiny person who looked just like a troll from her storybooks, with a coat of living emerald moss and skin the color of rain-washed granite. Fanny held her breath, realizing this silent traveler was far from the deep shadows of the forest where he belonged. Slow, measured pacing, very warm, intimate tone, subtle dynamics, fuller chest resonance. Fanny sat down on the wooden steps, moving as slowly as a cloud so she wouldn't startle him. The little visitor did not speak, but he looked up with round, shy eyes that shimmered like puddles after a storm. He clutched a walking stick made from a crooked hemlock twig, his tiny shoulders shivering in the brisk coastal air. Fanny wanted to show him that her big, bright world wasn't a place to fear. She reached into the grass and plucked a single buttery yellow leaf, holding it out like a golden flag of friendship. The little troll reached out a mossy hand, his fingers feeling like soft velvet against the leaf's dry spine. To lead him home, Fanny knew the path was too vast for his heavy tectonic steps, so she created a guide. She took a ball of crimson yarn from her pocket and tied one end to her porch railing, letting the string trail out across the lawn. The little troll tilted his head, watching the bright red line as it cut through the gray mist. He reached out and gripped the yarn, feeling its hum and vibration as Fanny moved ahead. With a slow, deliberate clack-tap of his stone feet on the wood, the visitor began to follow the scarlet thread, trusting the girl who led him with a gentle tug and a steady hand. They moved off the porch and into the sea of grass, where the morning mist turned the garden into a silver maze. Suddenly, a low, rhythmic growl rumbled through the air. The neighbor's lawnmower had roared to life nearby, shaking the earth like a dragon's breath. The little troll froze, his granite skin turning pale as he huddled against Fanny's ankle. To him, the vibrations were a mountain crumbling. Fanny knelt down, shielding him with her hands and humming a low, steady tune to drown out the noise. She waited until the roar faded into the distance, her heart thumping against her ribs until the garden felt safe and still once more. As they reached the forest's hem, the ground turned into a tangle of gnarled roots and crisp, copper-colored needles. The little troll paused, looking up at the long blue shadows that stretched between the trees like giant fingers. Sensing his worry, Fanny began to hum a different tune, one that mimicked the heartbeat of the woods. She hummed the sound of wind rushing through high branches and the sleepy chirp of a hidden cricket. Hearing the music of his own world, the visitor stood a little taller, his twig staff clicking rhythmically against the roots as he marched toward the deep green gloom. Soon, they arrived at the boundary wall, an ancient pile of gray boulders draped in thick, woolly moss. This was the place where the mown grass gave way to the wild, and Fanny knew it was the threshold of her friend's home. The little troll scrambled onto the first rock, his mossy coat blending perfectly with the stone. He turned back to Fanny, and for the first time, his shy face broke into a wide, joyous beam. A sharp pang of sadness touched Fanny's heart, but she knew that a true friend helps you get to where you belong, even if it means letting go of the hand you've been holding. Fanny watched as the visitor found a narrow, dark crevice between two massive stones, a doorway just his size. He turned one last time, raising his hemlock walking stick high in the air in a silent, sturdy salute. With a quick, rustling wiggle, he vanished into the cool, secret heart of the wall. The forest seemed to exhale a long, satisfied sigh of pine-scented air, welcoming its wanderer back. Fanny stood by the mossy stones for a long time, listening to the silence and feeling the damp mist settle on her hair like a crown of tiny diamonds. When Fanny finally walked back to her porch, she reached into her pocket and found the smooth white pebble she had carried all morning. To her amazement, a tiny, bright speck of emerald moss was beginning to curl across the stone's surface, soft and living. It was a piece of the forest that refused to fade, a reminder that her friend was safe in the deep green dark. She gripped the warming treasure tight, looking back at the woods where the shadows now felt like a hug. Fanny knew she had touched a fairy tale that morning, and as she turned the handle of her door, she carried the mountain's secret home with her.